wife, a mother, and now an accused predator. 44-year-old Sarah Jean Sellers is facing 80 child sex charges, including statutory rape. Authorities in Brunswick County, North Carolina, arrested Sellers on Valentine's Day following a lengthy investigation into years of alleged abuse. Sellers is accused of sexually abusing multiple victims. Prosecutors revealed in court that two of the victims were allegedly just 12 years old when the reported abuse began, and more potential victims could be on the way. Sellers was taken into custody on Valentine's Day, a day meant for love, now marking the start of her fight against shocking accusations. Instead of celebrating with her husband of 22 years, she was booked into the Brunswick County Detention Center, where she remains behind bars. But first, let's take a deeper look at who Sarah Jean Sellers is and how investigators uncovered the shocking allegations. If you take a look at her Instagram, she looks fairly normal. Her social media is filled with more than 200 pictures of her family, complimenting them, showing off their accomplishments, and sharing moments that seem to paint a picture of a loving wife and mother. But behind the celebratory and proud posts is a woman charged with 80 counts of child offense charges. Here are the details, according to the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office, and I must warn you, the allegations are disturbing. According to WWAY News, the state revealed that all of her alleged victims are boys, two of whom were 12 years old at the time of the alleged sex crimes, which spanned from 2018 and 2019. Two others, whose ages were not specified, are currently interviewing with detectives. Sellers faces 20 counts of statutory rape of a child under the age of 15, 20 counts of indecent liberties with a child, 10 counts of statutory sex offense with a child by an adult, 20 counts of statutory sex offense with a child under 15, and 10 counts of statutory rape of a child by an adult. And joining me to talk more about this story is legal expert Safa Robinson. So let's just dive right in. Based on the charges against Sarah Jean Sellers, what kind of sentence could she be facing if convicted?
Ms. Sellers is charged with a number of charges, specifically 80 counts of sexual misconduct charges against herself. She's looking at spending anywhere from 15 years to the rest of her life in prison for these charges.
Wow. What does it take for prosecutors to even bring 80 child sex charges against a suspect?
What oftentimes happens in cases like this is there's an initial disclosure. There's a disclosure by that child to someone who is either a family member or presumably a mandated reporter. These things happen either, the disclosures can happen at school, they can happen to a parent or or anybody that would essentially be a mandated reporter. They then report to law enforcement what the child has told them. The law enforcement will investigate. Oftentimes they'll do what we call a forensic interview and forensic examination with respect to that particular child. They are, performing a rape kit if it's anywhere short in the time that these allegations have taken place. Not only that, but they are interviewed by law enforcement. In New York here, we have certain entities that are in place so that, the child can tell the story one time or as minimal times as possible. You have attorneys that are viewing this. You have social workers, caseworkers, and things like that. They are oftentimes being interviewed by caseworkers and social workers. Those individuals are asking the appropriate questions that would essentially substantiate the charges that law enforcement is essentially looking to charge that particular individual with. And if that child discloses certain activity that would fit, again, for example, in this case, statutory rape, then charges will be brought against that individual either by law enforcement or by the district attorney's office or by both.
How difficult
Can I get the bill, please?
Is it to prosecute a case like this, especially with multiple victims?
It can be very difficult to prosecute child sex abuse cases. One of the things that often happens is this is a very sensitive topic. This is a very sensitive thing that's occurred to these children. And ultimately, it can be embarrassing. They may not want to cooperate or go forward. And their testimony is required in these sorts of cases. So these children have to testify about what happened to them. If there was hypothetically vaginal sex that was incorporated in this, they're going to have to get on the stand and discuss those things. And it's not always easy for children to do. I've seen children do it. I've had children do it in my experiences, but they can be very difficult. Oftentimes what can What can also happen is the child can be cooperative, and then as they're walking into the courtroom, they're so afraid that they don't want to go in and they don't want to say anything. So you never know what can happen, and until the child is up on the stand at a trial and ultimately having to be confronted by this defendant, anything can happen, and hopefully that they can seek that conviction, but you just never know until things are said and done.
Well, in your opinion, with all of your experience, what legal defenses could sellers' attorneys potentially use in a case like this?
It's going to be pretty difficult to come up with a legal defense on a case like this. Her defenses are either going to be A, she didn't do it, or B, if there's a strong enough allegation and supportive evidence that she did do it, then something that
82p